everybody, and welcome back to the Old Moon Podcast. What is this, episode 6 now?
It is episode 6, baby.
I can't believe we're actually on episode 6. We're actually huge. We're huge. I am, of course, Blue Squadron. I am joined here with my typical co-hosts. We'll start with Tiltus. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello. I'm Tiltus TV. No title today. No titles.
Okay, J-Kun. J-Kun, I swear if you came with a title today, I'm gonna smack you.
Oh, I did, but maybe I shouldn't say it then.
Next week.
This guy. All right, J-Kun, introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, my name is J-Kun. First of his name.
I fucking knew he was gonna fucking do it. Right? He can't help himself. He just can't help himself. All right, and we have special guests this week on Blonde Bear, the BDO partner, Twitch partner, man, myth, the legend himself. Blonde Bear, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Blonde Bear, and I like to party.
That's right, baby.
Oh, yeah.
I like to party. Today I learned that Blonde Bear's definition of party is grinding at the same spot repeatedly for thousands of hours and multiple years. This is a party. Sir. All right, so we have a lot of interesting topics to kind of get into today. The first one we're going to talk about is treasure items. But before we get into that, I know, J-Kun, you're like the Lord of PvE. Blonde Bear is arguably also a Lord of PvE, but you're both lords of different things. J-Kun, you know what? I'll throw it at Blonde first. Blonde, what do you typically grind for in PvE? What do you look for as progression? Because I know it's different than your average player.
So it used to be originally, before things changed, it used to be EXP. I was a long-term Murrowak grinder until we discovered 5M Murrowak, and was one of the people that popularized that a little bit. And like EXP was huge back in the day, and that was something I pushed for. I was on like the third 64 in North America, I believe, and I used to push for EXP, then it slowly moved into like treasure items, and now it's kind of just like, whatever I'm kind of in the mood for, whatever keeps me motivated to play.
Okay, and what are you motivated for right now? What is it that's keeping you all grinding?
Well, it was the Elviide, the legendary 9-piece dropped item in Odalita, but now it's kind of, the EU guy got it. So, there's no sense of urgency, so I'm doing a few things now. I'm getting my 250 despairs for the gloves. I'm gonna go get some Debarekas for later on stuff, and just kind of finish up some things I've been kind of putting on the sidelines, and then I'm gonna probably skip back to that when I finish up some small stuff real quick.
Okay, well, we'll get into the Elviide a little bit later, but I know I am a big treasure grinder. I really just, man, I actually just won't grind unless there's a treasure item to grind for. I don't grind for gear. I don't grind. I don't really like. Well, I do life skill a lot, but like the only thing that really keeps me going in PvE and like killing mobs, it is satisfying to an extent, and gear gains are fun and everything, but I have to be grinding for a treasure item. I mean, you're talking to the guy that literally spent 4 years in Histria and over 2,000 hours to get a compass that I swear is useful and can't be put in the family inventory, but we'll get to that later. J-Kun, you are a huge PvEer. What motivates you to keep going? Because I know you're basically hard capped gear, so don't tell me it's the gear.
Well, this might sound like really simple, but I just grind because it's fun. The combat is so addicting. Like, I've only ever played a couple MMOs here and there, like World of Warcraft, MapleStory, Terra, and I found that Black Desert just does it simply the best. Sure, it may have its flaws here and there, like desync, which causes
hours
issues in combat.
Yep.
I mean, every MMO has their own issues, but despite that, I just really love their combat system, so that's why I grind.
Really, that's the wow, man. It's because it's fun. Yes,
because
today I learned that grinding is. Yeah, honestly, my brother came over. Like one time, it was many years ago, he came over and he saw me grinding Histria, and he was like, "Oh, this is really cool. Is this the game you play?" I'm like, "Yeah." Then like we fast forward like 3 years, and he comes over again, and I'm like graduated from college, and he comes in and he goes, Is that the same spot? I'm like, yes, okay. I like this. He's like, is it like cathartic for you? I'm like, shut up. I'm doing my best.
Quite the opposite for Blue.
I'm having fun. It's a fun game. All right, Tiltus, why do you not grind? Because I don't even pretend that you grind.
I grind a little bit, but I grind specifically only for PvP. That's it. That's the only thing I care about in the game. I don't care about treasure items. I don't care about fucking gear score number go up. The only reason I want my gear score number to go up is so I can do more PvP.
I would argue maybe the same for the rest of the people in the game too. But do you grind on Arsha exclusively if you're there, like if you're like a big PvP person?
Yes, I have done very exclusive Arsha grinds. I don't grind much now anymore. I just basically do a couple hours of Gyphons every week to basically fund my node war, and then slowly chip away at other things, and that's about it.
But you do a couple hours of Gyphons and that only funds your node war for the week?
Yes,
oh, what
sir.
the fuck? You're making like 1.6 billion. What kind of consumables are you using in node war, man? Like what?
I say I chip away at other things too. It's not only that. I do fucking horse attempts and fucking other stuff too, but it's for padding the bank right now. Plus I'm trying to buy a second Garmoth's Heart, so
Okay.
chipping away at that slowly.
All right, now we're going to lean more into the treasure items. Like I said, I wanted to start off our discussion with what each of us feels like the definition of a treasure item is. Like, what elements do you feel it needs to have if we're going to call it a treasure item in Black Desert? Because I think a lot of people have different definitions on this. Blonde, we're going to start with you. What do you think defines a treasure item in BDO?
I mean, originally the uses were pretty crazy. Like when the Compass in the Map came out, it was like the usage of that was so crazy. Teleporting 5 players to you was insane. And we're a little bit faster now. We can teleport around a little bit easier, so it's not really the same. And the map was also insane because we had to carry silver. We had weight problems. Being able to teleport to a town and back with a 5-hour, 7-hour limit, whatever it is, was crazy. That was insane. It was so extremely like useful. So now it's kind of moved to more towards it's like a luxury item. It's like, it was kind of rare. It was kind of unique. No one else had it before. Now it's more of like it's kind of another collectible on the shelf. If you will.
Don't you dare tell me that my compass is a collectible on a shelf. I'm moving to the next person out of principle. Tiltus, what do you think that the definition of a treasure item is? What defines a treasure item?
The treasure items to me are things that are extremely rare that should make your life in BDO way better. It should be think of like the most annoying thing in BDO, whatever that is for you, and then the treasure item should be an item that makes that so much easier. Like Blonde Bear was talking about, being able to teleport people around the map when there was no other teleportation besides CCG in the game, being able to traveler's map back to town and then back to wherever you're at. Those were huge back in the day. Like you said, they've lost a lot of their sway, Blue, over the years now with quality of life buffs to just movement around the game. But I think they should be the most annoying aspect of BDO, and it should make that just a little bit easier for you is my definition of a treasure item.
Wow, so like a necessary convenience item? That's like
not a necessary item, but something, a good quality of life thing that makes you want to grind for it. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right, okay, it's interesting. See, okay, we got a little bit difference here. J-Kun, what do you think the definition of a treasure item is?
I mean, I think a common element of what makes a treasure item considered treasure item are the unique effects, right? The ability to never run out of potions, the ability to summon party members, the ability to evade taxes. I think these effects are really appealing to players and give them reasons to go after these items. I don't think they should be too I think necessary as Tiltus was describing, but I think you're misunderstanding.
I don't want it to be like you have to have it. I just want it to make whatever you find annoying just a little bit easier in the game, like moving around party members are like dumping things off in this market.
100%.
Things weighted. I don't want it to break the game. I just want it to be something that's worth grinding for. You know what I mean?
Okay, so all right, so my definition of a treasure item is just a little bit different. So like, obviously extreme rarity is something that we can all agree on. Now, the degree of rarity is probably something that we disagree on. I think that they should be extremely rare, but like,
no,
Like,
I'm right there with
like
you.
the fact that
Yeah.
they're extremely rare. I do not like it when they're like super easy to get. But I also don't think that it should just. It should be a unique use, like effect, but it shouldn't be something that everybody needs. It should be something that everybody needs. For example, like the compass. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to TP your friends, but I think they really nailed it with the compass. For 4 straight fucking years, they nailed me in the ass with the compass. But like,
Hey yo,
I think
hey, yo.
I think that like they nailed it with the compass because it's a unique effect. It's really cool, but I don't feel like every player necessarily needs that effect. And the map is also the same. We'll get into the potions a little bit later, but how rare do you guys think treasure items actually should be? Because clearly, I think that they should be giga rare, and I know that Tiltus probably leans more towards like potion level rarity on that. And in my day, we walked uphill both ways to history in the sand.
True.
Blonde, what do you think? Should they be? How rare do you think they should be?
Giga rare.
Really?
Yep.
Even as someone that's you're like 2,000 hours in for your Olin's piece, you're like,
Yeah. If there was a pity system, it would insult me. If it was easier, it would insult me. I want it to be. I want someone to go in that spot and get it in their first hour ever, and I want there to be me, who's at hour 2,000 still going for it, because it's just the essential properties of the thing. That's the gamble. That's the gamble of the game. It's the gamble of going for rare items. You have to know I'm either going into the spot and I'm gonna get it, or I'm gonna never get it. And I like that. I like that, and I want it to always be like that. I don't like. Pity systems can exist for good reasons, but I think that treasure items should be ultra rare, and that should be the way it is.
okay. We'll table that for a second, because now I kind of want to ask you if you think the potions are treasure items. That's something I'm going to ask later. Tiltus, how rare do you think items should be? Because you said that like if we were under your reign. You were like, we just need to take an extreme convenience item that everyone needs and make it grindable in 2,000 hours.
No. That's not what I said. What I said was
a hair above 2,000 hours.
Take the most annoying thing that exists in the game that you don't like doing, but you do consistently anyways. And a treasure item should be something that makes that just a little bit less annoying to do.
Like then everybody needs it though.
No, you don't need it, because you don't need the map or the compass, right? But it helps move you around. Oh, it helped move you around the map back in the day. Okay, so you didn't need it. You got around the map fine, but it was nice to have it, right? So I come from fucking RuneScape, bro. I want there to be untradeable. I want there to be untradeable unique items that exist in the game that you have no other option than to go grind out yourself. The fire cape is a rite of passage.
A 5,000 kill count, still no pet.
Yes,
Let's
exactly,
go.
dude. Like I like those kind of things. I was grinding out the agility pet in RuneScape. Okay, I had it min-maxed. I was like, all right, if I run an hour of the penguin agility course every day, I will eventually get this fucking pet. There's no guarantee I'll ever get it, but I'm gonna keep doing it. So I like giga rare items. I think they're fucking lit. I want more of them. So you think they probably make me play the game.
So like you would actually move up to the next category. I feel like there's like extremely rare and then there's like giga rare, and you want it to be like giga rare.
Yeah, I want it to be something that like you brag about to your friends. You're like, hey, check out this thing. Good luck getting it. Yeah, go log your 2,000 hours getting it, like, and then they'll go get it on like the first lap or whatever. But you know, it's that's part of it, right? Like some people hit the jackpot and some people don't.
You would be surprised how many people come into my chat. Blue, I got that they type out, Blue, I got the Elton piece in like 3 hours or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, you got the Vodkin piece in 3 hours? And then every time they said, no, the Elton piece. I'm like, yeah, the Vodkin piece. Yeah, that happens with the Vodkin piece. They don't understand. I read what I want. Like I am at that. I can't emphasize enough. That did not happen. You understand? Like I need this. All right, Jacob, how rare do you think that these items should be? Like on a scale, you know what? I'll give you a scale.
A scale.
Extremely rare items being like, you have to grind 2,000 hours for them. Giga rare items, you'd have to grind 3,000 to 4,000 plus. And then like very rare being like under 1,000.
Well, I think these treasures give players like long-term goals, and I think that's the big reason that people go for them. But I don't think these goals should be like impossible, right? There are some items in the game that are just realistically impossible to get, and I do think it should be rare enough that it feels really rare to get, but not rare enough that it feels impossible to get, if you know what I mean.
We'll go with very rare for you. 1,000
Very
hour,
rare.
like a 1,000 hour,
1,000.
1,000
There you
hour
go.
rare. Tiltus is like 4,000 hours, or you literally don't deserve the item. And Blonde is like a 2,000 hour guy, right? I think that's fair. Okay, so all right, so let's look at rarity real quick. When treasure items were first introduced to the game, we had Laffy Bed Mountain's upgraded compass, the archaeologist map, and the merchant ring, and the rich merchant ring, all introduced with the same patch that was Valencia a long time ago. Now, that was back when the developers actually didn't tell us anything about the game. And so, believe it or not, nobody even knew if those items were actually in the game when the expansion dropped. No one even knew that those were a thing until somebody eventually did get a vodka, just stumbled into a vodkin and picked up a vodkin piece on stream, and then we all knew, okay, at least the map and the compass are probably in the game. But it was years before somebody actually got the first merchant ring piece, because if we want to talk about rarity, the merchant ring, when it was originally introduced, was easily the rarest item in the game. It was only obtainable. There were 5 pieces. 4 of those pieces were only obtainable via trading, and you had like approximately the chance that you have on an Elton piece, like a 0.005% chance on every trade that you made on this specific trade good, but you can only do like 6 of them a day. And you had to like sail all the way across the ocean to do it every single day, and you had like 6 attempts a day. So like no one got it until one day one guy got 1 piece of the merchant ring. He got the trade item piece of the merchant ring, which was actually just insane. And we also had somebody get it from it used to drop from the traveling merchants that walk around the desert. You guys remember these guys? Like the guys that like the caravan that walks around, that if you hit them at all, you lose like all of your karma instantly. The merchant ring used to drop from that too, but like we knew, so at that point we knew the merchant ring was in the game, but no one could obtain it. I know Biohack spent a lot of time trying to barter for it and couldn't find it for a long time until they ended up reworking it, and then he went and became a tax evader, God bless his heart. But the merchant ring was like beyond rare. Like no one on the server got it for the first 3 or 4 years that it was actually in the game. The compass was considered extremely rare. And you have to keep in mind that part of what made these items so rare when they came out was the fact that like drop rate, right, and the number of chances on the item. So because Histria and sulfur mines and Pilaku have been reworked a number of times, you have more and more chances to get the item, and the drop rate increases. You get Arsha, you get castle buff now, and things like that. So all of that being said, did you like the obscene rarity? I know Tiltus is like, yes, baby, give me merchant ring rarity every time. Did you like how rare it was back then, or do you prefer kind of where we're at now with? We'll go with the compass as an example, because right now you can grind like 200 to 300 hours realistically and get the full compass done. Just about. Blonde, what do you think? Do you think that that's an acceptable amount of time, or do you wish it was longer like before? Oh, I can't hear him.
Uh-oh. Blonde.
I'm so sorry.
Mike dead.
Okay, there you go. Say again.
I think it depends on the type of item. I think that for like some items, older grind spots have gotten faster and faster and faster, so things are getting way quicker to happen. Right, the drop rates are still the same, but we're killing way more mob density. They even introduce another mob to do it. So like for some things, it's just going to get naturally easier. So like I'm okay with some items being like, not every single item has to be ultra giga rare. I think some can be like a low tier, medium tier, high tier. I don't know. I think that it's okay to have like a varying difference. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because like the way that the game's designed, like something like Olin's is a lot more rare than another piece that has like a way higher mob density versus like for the Elton, you know, the Vodkin's obviously a higher percent drop rate, but the Elton is like lower. I think it's okay to have like some kind of variance in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be you know, all the same, always ultra giga rare. But I liked not knowing that those things even existed until we saw someone get it. I mean, that's how a lot of people felt about the Iliad. Cool. Yeah. When, you know, people were getting multiple pieces from the Iliad from Olin's, they're like, what is this? Or anytime even newer players go get a piece from Thornwood, they're like, what is this weird looking puzzle piece thing? I don't know what the heck this is. And most people still don't, because there's very limited information on that stuff. So I like that. I like that people don't know some of the stuff that they just randomly kind of stumble upon. You know. You got a 9-piece Exodia there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I still remember there was one guy back when I ran Dismantled who's just a new player, was a new and returning player guild at the time. And he comes into voice. He's like, "Hey, I saw this cool looking thing in the desert, and I stumbled into it. And I kind of just started killing the mobs there for fun. And I came out with this upgraded compass part. What do I do with this?" And I said, "Oh, it's really easy. Just hit G for me. Do you see the mouse over the leave guild button? Yeah, just go ahead and click that for me real quick." Actually just drives me nuts. So Tilta, same question for you. Do you feel that like the items are too easy to get now? Like things like the compass. We're not looking at the potions yet.
Yeah, I think they are. I think maybe not now because their utility is not as great as they once were. But at the time when they were, you know, the whispers on the wind, I thought they were really cool. And like the Merchant's Ring's a great example of like, we didn't know it existed for years. It was this rumored thing that, you know, existed in a patch note somewhere that people talked about, but there was no information on it. And I love stuff like that. It builds the community of like, you talk about it, you whisper about it, you know, you talk to your friends.
Yeah, no, you're like, oh, look at this. I can ping it in world chat. God, look how big my penis is. It's that kind of an item, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Like we love those items. We love those items. Jay, do you feel that the rarity on the items now is better? Because I mean, you could make the case that it helps people keep playing the game. Because like people could quit if they're just, oh my gosh, you know. I mean, Blonde. I hate to use you as an example, but Blonde didn't get Blonde like had been grinding for his Olin's piece for God, like 2,000 hours or something, and he had watched at least 4 people or something in his party get the Olin's piece while he did it. That literally the most heartbreaking. It's happened to me once now too. Literally the most heartbreaking thing ever. I know Blonde stopped playing the game for a while. So like, Jay, do you think that like the rarity where it is now is a good thing with the drop rate and stuff, or do you wish it was as rare as it was before?
Well, when the devs made the drop rates way back when, right? I don't think they kind of like predicted that it would get to this point where today, like I think players just commonly achieve 300% drop rate, even up to 400% with Arsha and Castle buff, right? So, I think they can't really go back on it. They can't really reduce it. You know what I mean?
They could ninja, bro. They could absolutely just ninja it straight down to like a 0% drop rate, bro. No. There were some weeks. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they are in a spot that I think they're okay. I think they're in an okay spot because, you know, there's still rare items. Maybe we'll get more in the future, but like the current rare items today, like people are still going to be struggling for them. Like we used Blonde Bear as an example, right? The Olin's piece is still a struggle for him, and I think as time progresses, as the game progresses, there might be new treasures in the future, and then that's where they can start quote unquote fixing the drop rate so that it still feels like a rare item. You know?
Right. Okay, yeah, no, I get that. I'll be honest, I like where it's at right now. I love grinding for a rare item, but 4 years almost broke my mental in half, bro. Like, it's just unreal. The worst part was I got the Elton piece like on stream. There were like 200 people watching, and like no one said anything. I was like reading chat, and I didn't see it. I just kept going. They were willing to let me. I had no idea. They were willing to let me go another 4 years, grinding for this damn thing. Damn, bro. Like. Yeah, I actually kind of like how rare things are now. So moving on to my next question here. They've reworked a few of the treasure items in the game. Number 1 being the Merchant Ring. Okay, so we talked about how rare the Merchant Ring was before. Do we like that they've moved away from this? Okay, no one is ever going to get this item. It's kind of like they approached it with like a Pen Fallen God mentality, like right away out the gate, and then they changed it to like Tet Fallen God later. So do you guys agree with how the Merchant Ring has changed? They kind of moved away from the trading, and now you can get every piece through grinding. Blonde, Jake, you already have one because you're I'm not talking to you right now.
Remember, he almost has enough for a second one.
He almost has enough for a third one.
I didn't hear that. Blonde, do you like the new rework?
100%. When they had that patch note where they did, because they didn't just say, all right, now the merchant ring pieces drop at other spots instead of just trading. They left this like mystical tattered parchment, and they left these little riddles in there, and you had to kind of riddle it out and figure out where it came from. I was like, this is the coolest freaking thing ever. Now, although they were pretty easy to figure out, but there were some that were kind of a mystery, some that were tied between different places, and I was like, this is so freaking cool. This is like a way to introduce a really cool, unique, rare item to the community. Like, get them to like kind of riddle it out. You know what I mean? I thought it was amazing. I was like, this is awesome. And then they did another one because they, you know, the merchant ring pieces drop from the trading stuff. They drop from the monster spots. They have 5 monster spots, but there's also alternative ways other than that. You can get it through like there's one through sea monster hunting. There's one through Dark Rifts, there's the dungeons, now there's the dungeons, but they had all these different little riddles, and it was just one of the coolest things. I was like, this is so freaking awesome. I love this. So
they must have hired somebody new to write the riddles for this.
That's right.
No, they just stopped. Perlvis took over and we're like, no, we're not doing any of that, bro. They did Cacao did rock look deep, and they never mentally recovered. Like I actually deep, like bro. And to this day I still look at it, and somebody fully explained it to me like 3 times. I got nothing.
Bro,
I've got nothing.
Bro. On Rock Look Deep, that was miserable.
Yeah, I don't know who got that, but I think they just randomed it and just sent it.
To.
Yeah, that's how hard those riddles are. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even like a sensible sentence. Like,
no,
you forget the rock look deep. Like, what does that even mean?
Well, the way it was is that it was a puzzle in Tariff where they're like, oh, it's the southeast facing of the when standing on the dark side of the moon on the building of the night, and literally it was just a board pointing towards a G on another board, and that was it. We just had to press G. But if you're in a guild and you press G, you just see your guild tab. But it was a mystery in the guild search, so you had to not press G. You had to go search in all guilds and find a random guild that fit the puzzle name. Oh man, that was stupid.
Sounded fine to me. Man. I don't know how that would be frustrating. It seems pretty obvious to me. All right, Jay, as someone that's literally never struggled a day of his entire BDO career, tell me why do you feel that the merchant ring is too easy to get now?
I don't think it's too easy to get, but I do think BDO or like the devs do a really good job of rehashing old content into something more feasible, right? For example, like the LV zones, I think that's a really good way to rehash the old zones into something that's more relevant. And so that happened with the merchant ring because it was like pretty much impossible. So instead of creating a new treasure, why not reuse an old treasure that no one else could ever get? So I do really like the idea that how they introduced it, as Blondbear said, like the little riddles and stuff was really cool. And now there's like more alternative methods to get the merchant ring and stuff. And so I really am excited to see what they make in the future. Maybe we'll see some new ones, you know? So. Yeah,
and we're going to touch on that a little bit later. Tiltus, have you ever... Okay, so Tiltus, you're like the anti-treasure item guy. All right? So why do you not grind for treasure items?
So back before Magnus existed, I actually had started the compass grind. I was not lucky enough to get any pieces of the compass while I was doing that grind, but I was actually actively doing it before Magnus. Because it was something I was like, man, this would be really cool to have. You know, not a ton of people had it. You know, you have a handful of members in every guild, I think, or big guild at the time that had them. So I was gonna start grinding it, and then they released Magnus, and I was like, you know what? I don't need this anymore. And I'm a firm believer in I don't need the infinite pot, so I refuse to get it. Fuck you. So.
No strong feelings there. Holy moly. God, you bring potions to every war? No wonder you have to grind for an hour just to go to war. I bring
500 potions in my inventory to the start of every war, and then I pull another 400 out by the time war is over.
This man has been playing the game for like 6 years. Like, what is wrong with your mental status?
I refuse to do it. It's not good enough. It's not a good enough reason for me to go want to go grind it.
Okay, all right. Well, honestly, on that subject, moving on to the infinite potions. Honestly, the developers the developers took kind of a change here, because until this point, we had seen Laffy Bed Mountain's compass and the map were like the two big treasure items that were obtainable at the time, and the merchant ring wasn't quite obtainable when the potions had got introduced to the game. But they introduced the potions originally as a treasure item that you had to go out and get, and there was no pity system back in my day. There was no pity system, bro. So like you just had to go to Tashira Ruins, and the only redeeming quality of Tashira Ruins is that every once in a while someone would walk in to your spot and you would just say, "What are you doing in my swamp?" Like it's my Shrek or something. But like that's it. That's all you got to do. SheerCon, everybody hated each other. Everyone just flagged there out of principle because there's nothing better to do. Blood Wolves, everyone's just grinding over the top of you and you just can't kill people fast enough. Just a miserable experience. Do you guys think that when the potions came out, it was correctly done, or do you like that they introduced the pity system? We'll start with Jakun this time.
Well, I think when the devs created the infinite potions, they thought players were going to be like, oh, this is not going to be that necessary since I can just buy potions infinitely, which is what Tiltus thinks. But turns out they're a lot more useful convenience-wise than they turned out to be. And so enough for players to complain enough to get a pity system. I do think it was a good thing that it was added, since I heard people like, I remember Huntler back in the day. I'm going to sidetrack a bit. I don't know if anyone remember, but there was this meme of it was like it was Squidward in his house looking outside his window, seeing SpongeBob and Patrick running outside having fun, and someone labeled Huntler as Squidward and Divios and Choice as Patrick and SpongeBob, since they had the potion and Huntler didn't. But going back on track, some people unfortunately spent a crazy amount of time on the potion, so I do think it was a good thing that a pity system was added. As for whether I like the pity system or not, I personally grinded for the potions before the pity system was added. So when they did add the pity system, it did feel kind of like a kick in the shin to players who already grinded for it. So no, I don't like it because of bias. So there.
Okay, so you don't like the... Okay, yeah. Okay,
I don't like it
out
because of
sheer
bias.
hatred.
Jakun's the same kind of man that doesn't want college debt canceled for other people because he had to pay it.
Okay, yeah, hates American freedom. That's all I wrote down. Jakun, Tiltus, what do you think on the pity system? Good, bad, ugly? You don't get... I know you don't care, but like what...
You know
what would
funny?
get you to grind for this thing? Like how? Like the developers, like, please go grind for this. And you're like, no.
Oh no, So my thing with the infinite pot piece is whenever I am just like, you know what, I'm gonna go spend 1 hour there, and I go run one weekly, and then I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll see you in like a month when I come back for it. When I get that fucking urge to grind 1 hour there. There's nothing that they could do that would make me fucking go grind out the infinite pot in like a reasonable amount of time. I'll say that I have way more respect for every single human being that suffered through getting the infinite pot pieces before the pity system was a thing. I'm not a huge fan of the pity system. It is going to make me eventually one day probably get it, just through having to find something else to do in this game. But
he's a fan, so you're a fan.
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh, not a fan, even though he doesn't grind for his potion.
Correct.
And Blonde, what do you think? Are you a fan of the pity system, or did you not like that they made it super easy to obtain what we would call treasure items?
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of it. I understand why they introduced it, but I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I just feel like for every person that got a... Okay, so I was talking with my wife about this. I was saying that like if they introduce a system to automatically have a system like that enabled, it doesn't really feel like a pity system because it feels like that's how it was originally intended. But then releasing it where it was 3 rare items and then it eventually got pitied out kind of is like, you know,
Yep.
But I think it's because they didn't really see the value like a lot of players did, where they felt this is mandatory, I have to get this, and oh my gosh, I've grinded for like 100 hours for one piece and still haven't gotten it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I was
just gonna say, but I think it's different though, because like a lot of newer players, like they're in their spots, and those are spots that they can go and like actually make some good money starting out right out of seasons. Versus like a lot of people originally were like a lot of veterans, people who's like close to 700 gear score doing that, and it was just like, this is miserable, and I hate every minute of it, and I'm just here for this one thing and nothing else. But that's what made it kind of cool and rare, and like that's the whole point, you know.
Yeah, to suffer. To literally chain yourself to the desk and suffer.
100%.
Yeah, I'll admit, I actually am a pretty big fan of the pity system, but I think I'm only a fan of the pity system because I don't consider the potions treasure items. To me, I don't consider the potions treasure items because I think the developers really screwed up here. I think that we go back to our definition of treasure items. I think that they should be items that are like really have like a really cool functionality but aren't necessarily required for players to play the game. And the developers said they introduced the pity system because they had so many people quitting because they felt the infinite pot was required, and very many players do. Tiltus is in the vast minority of players that thinks the infinite pot and miraculous tier 5 are actually just not required to be a good PvPer. And in fairness, he's just not a good PvPer, so it makes sense.
Wow.
Wow. But no, but like the pity system I felt was necessary because these are necessary items for a new player. Like, what's the first thing you tell every new player? They're like, where should I grind? And you're either, the first two words out of your mouth are either centaurs or go grind for your potion. Or go grind for your potion, right? That's how kind of required these are as you kind of work your way through the game. And I just don't consider, by my definition, I don't really consider the potions treasure items because they're not really incredibly rare. There's a pity system. Like, there's no pity system for the merchant ring. There's no pity system for the compass and the map, and nor should there be. It's meant to be a rare item like that. Bro, you live for that dopamine hit of getting the item. You're like, oh my God, I've been grinding for years and I finally got it. Never mind the fact that I didn't get that moment with my compass because chat is masochistic. We'll look past that. That is the moment that we are looking for when we grind. And so like the pity system kind of took that away from us. But in fairness, I feel like it's more of a required item than a treasure item. So do you guys, and so very briefly, Blonde, do you feel like the potions, now that I've explained that a little bit, do you feel like the potions even qualify as a treasure item there?
Yeah, no, not really.
Okay.
They are legendary, but they're not like a treasure item.
Not treasure. Okay. I completely agree with you. They're like they're definitely rare, but like I don't consider it. Tiltus, what do you think?
No, I've never thought they were treasure items, to be completely honest. If anything, they're just like convenience items. For me, like I'm plenty satisfied just playing the game exactly the way I'm playing it.
Yeah, you're weird.
So.
You still have normal potions. We don't even know what to do with you. You're like homeless on the street.
I'm gonna come for you, Blue.
Yeah,
I'm gonna come for you one day.
I can't believe you don't have your potions.
I'm gonna come for you with my fucking instant pots from the fucking general stop, and I'm gonna link them in chat over your dead body one day.
That would require you to actually aim your crosshairs at me and land a skill, so I'm probably going to be sad. Jay-kun, do you think that by our earlier definitions, do you feel that the potion pieces still, or like the potions still actually qualify as treasure items, or should they be in their own kind of categories like legendary items?
I think before, when they first released, I think they were more in line with being a treasure item because they were like really hard to get. But now that they've made them a lot easier to get, I feel like it's taken a step down from becoming a treasure item. So
yeah.
So
okay.
no,
So legendary.
That was my answer.
Okay. Yeah. So now this kind of leads into my question, and people talk about this constantly, and honestly, I agree with them. Do you think the potions, specifically the potions, should be able to be moved into your family inventory? Because before we say anything, I know the developers are very strongly opinionated that you should not be able to move treasure items into your family inventory. They say every time they say the same thing. People grind thousands of hours for these items. We don't want them to have fun with them. Literally, close quote. Verbatim. I'm pretty sure is what Jay told me at the Calvion Ball. Do you guys think that if we can convince the developers that the potions are not actually treasure items and that they're more like legendary items, and we kind of move them down a peg, I actually think we can low-key, like roundabout, convince them that we might be able to get it into our family inventory. Do you guys feel that putting the infinite pots in our family inventory is a good idea, or do you agree with the developers? And be careful because there are pitchforks in chat. Jay-kun, you go first.
I to preface, I do agree that they should be in the family inventory, but I personally don't mind that the potions aren't able to be put, since the only characters that I do grind with are my main and my tag, and they're always going to be in the same region anyways because they're linked. So it's not that big of an issue for me to just storage mate it, but I do think out of convenience for players who do possibly play more than 2 characters, it would be very nice to have in the family inventory. So
okay. That's, I mean, the problem with putting it in storage, it's like you said you could put it in storage. The problem is you can't move it from like across the world like you can with everything else in the Magnus and stuff, which is like also
well,
like
that's what I mean by I only play main and my tag, and they're always linked. So if I need the potions on my tag, I just made it in, swap to my tag, and then made it out, since they're going to be in the same region. So
okay. Tiltus, how do you feel about being able to put you probably don't, you're like you're gonna tell him let him burn. Let him burn. No, don't put it in your family inventory.
The potion should honestly, all treasure items should be able to go into your family inventory, but especially the potion, because it's not a treasure item.
This guy's speaking my language right now. He's speaking my language. I like it.
I got some opinions that you may not agree with, but
Amen.
that one's just a no-brainer to me.
No, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Someone that has 4 treasure items, I completely agree. Blonde, what do you think about putting potions specifically in your family inventory?
I'm indifferent. Like I could see an argument for them not being in there, and I could see an argument for making them be in there, because like on one hand it's like, you know, we have the family inventory and we get to put what, like loot scrolls, pet food in it, you know what I mean, or like EXP scrolls. But on the other hand, like having the ability to access those there's people that I know that have farmed out like 3 or 4 pots, and it's like that's just unnecessary. That's just
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Not good. Yeah.
You guys want to know a secret?
Uh-oh.
I have 4 slots in my family inventory. That's how much I use it.
What?
Yeah.
This man has been playing the game for 6 years. How do you only have 4 slots? How do you pop like cron meals, elixirs, droughts, perfumes, your potions? You don't even have the inventory. You have to literally transfer potions to every character, don't you?
No, all my characters just have potions on them. Look, I don't have to worry about the infinite pot not going into my fucking Valencia storage, because whatever characters in Valencia just has normal pots in their inventory.
Okay. I will say, do you want the honest truth for a second? They came out with family inventory, and I thought it was really important. And so I did fill up my family inventory to full. And I remember them saying, Blue, you can run a quest and get like 8 family inventory slots for free. And I said, you lost me at quest. I literally just bought all of it off the pro shop. I just bought all the family inventory straight off the pro shop. I said it's not worth my fucking time. I'm done with this. I'm moving on. $2, send it.
I just have a lot of weight on my characters that I made.
I can't even imagine only having a couple family inventory spots. But like, I will say that
just don't use it.
I have a lesser held opinion. I know a lot of people advocate for the potions being in the family inventory, and I completely agree with that. I think that, to be honest with you, people grind hundreds of hours for these items. Why not let them have fun with the item? I feel like you're just restricting it. And the best part is, if you place alts at strategic parts of the world, you can still transfer the item. It's just annoying. It's kind of like them not letting us tag in the desert, but really you can, because you can just go to character. So Jay, turn off your camera. Or turn off the stream right now. You guys, if you guys didn't know, they don't let you tag in the desert, but you can actually just go to character select and then just log in on the other character. You can do the same thing in Node War too. So like, they're just making it more inconvenient to use this item that you spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours grinding for. And that's just really frustrating to me. Like, come on, man. Like, I feel like I invested the time. Now, I'm of the opinion that all treasure items should be able to go in the family inventory. Why? Because I feel like the map, let's be honest, as you guys said before, the map and the compass are not as valuable as they once were. Like the map, we have the Magnus, bro. We have instant, like, teleportation basically anywhere you want to go. Like, why are the map and the compass really, oh gosh, we have to restrict how much it can actually get used items? Like, at least let me have a little bit of an advantage with it, being able to move it to and from my family inventory. Instead, I gotta waste like 6 alt slots all over the world to move this thing wherever the heck I need it to. Do you guys think that you should be able to move all treasure items into your family inventory? Tiltus, I know you already spoke on it. Blonde, what do you feel about the rest of the treasure items?
I think that back in the day I would have said no, but nowadays I would say yes. I feel like they've made so many like nice convenient things that like I don't need this to be separate. I don't need to feel like it's an exclusive item because it's not as like crazy ultra rare as anymore because it feels like a lot of people have it, and just the abilities that we have now to access different parts of the world. It's so quick to travel. I feel like that eliminates like the want or need for it to be separate from that. But now it's like I'm at the point where I'm like, you can go in there because it's just not right. So at this point it just seems like an obvious go for it.
Yep. Jay, what do you think?
I definitely agree with pretty much everything Blonde Bear has to say, but if I were to put myself in the devs' shoes, I feel like players are very creative, and I'm not sure what kind of shenanigans people might do.
True.
But players will find a way to
exploit it now,
exploit or yeah. So I feel like the devs are afraid of that happening, so that's why they don't. That's what I personally think.
Finds a way.
Yeah.
So you agree, but you're worried about exploiting. I feel like there's ways around it.
I'm not worried, but I think that the devs are worried. That's why I think that they won't do it.
All right.
But I do want them in the family inventory.
Okay, so on to the next question. Do you think that treasure items, moving past the family inventory bit, because I know that's kind of a hot button thing, but like, do you think that treasure items are actually worth pursuing as new players? And let's go ahead and I think we can all agree just off the bat that the potions are obviously worth grinding. At least we'll take the HP potion off the table. What about the mana potion, the map, and the compass? I can tilt this, bro. The mana potion, the map, and the compass. Are those worth grinding as new players? Tiltus, why do you feel like that's not even worth grinding?
So I've already kind of said my piece on all three of these things. Number one, the mana pot is you can just use. I get 100 normal extra large mana pots. My fairy is set to 50 during Node War for mana, and I don't use them all by the time the war is over. So why do I need the mana pot? I literally don't even go through 100 of them during the war. And then number two, the compass and the map, like, sure, they can be convenient for certain situations, but I with the introduction of Magnus and as many storage mages as they give out nowadays, I'm like, I don't really see the need, and with horse stacking, I don't really see the need for like using these items like day in and day out. How often do you guys actually use your treasure items?
All the time.
All day, every day.
Really?
Every single day, all the time, especially the potions.
Okay, well then I can't speak on it because shut the fuck up. I can't speak on it because I don't have any of them. It just seems like something that as a new player, I'd be like, yeah, I'll do that, but there's a bunch of other stuff I'd like to do first.
Wow. Okay. All right. Now we know why Epidemic doesn't have any potions.
Oh my god! I'm gonna start using guild potions just to spite you.
Don't you dare! They're not even the 2 seconds, you heathen. They're not even the 2-second potions. Don't you do me dirty like that?
They are now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
They introduced it instant bots for a guild.
Jay, setting aside the infinite HP potion, do you think the mana potion, the map, and the compass are worth it for any player?
I think for the mana pot, it depends on what class you play. I know that some classes are very like mana starved, but some classes like I think Ninja I remember Armin was talking on stream one day where he just literally uses like 20 potions in like a 4-hour grind period or something like that. But for something like, let's say, at least for my Wusa, like if I don't have my mana pot going, I do run out of mana. Unless I use like a spirit perfume or something, right? But
right.
Yeah, I do think the infinite mana potion will be dependent on class. As for the compass and map, I think it depends on what type of content you do. For me personally, I do a lot of party content, so I use my compass every day, multiple times a day actually, when I do Olins, because I do a lot of Olin groups, and so I always summon my party members to there. But that's like a very niche.
Do you think a new player should do it?
As for a new player, I guess when you're talking about new player, probably not really necessary for a new player. If you change the question to that.
What about the map?
So-
Do you feel like the map's necessary?
The map, not
Or
really.
worth?
Now with the addition of all these fast travel methods, maybe before it was very useful to because things had a lot of weight, like potions weighed twice as much, silver weighed. There was a lot of things that didn't stack before, but nowadays with all of the convenient stuff that PA has added, I don't think it's too necessary. Again, I think it's more of a luxury item on a shelf that Blonde Bear mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, like, my only concern there is, like, especially as a new player, you're tagging lots of classes. You're just shuttling through classes typically pretty quickly, and inevitably one of them is going to need the mana pot. I also would argue that it's a weight thing, although they did decrease the weight of potions now, so you can carry a lot of potions on you now. But, like, I feel like it just means that you have to buy less weight in the future. You have to buy less of everything on every character that you try to play. And it's just a convenience thing. But Blonde, what do you feel like? Do you feel like the mana potion, map compass, new player? Yes, no?
Yeah, I completely disagree with Jay Kuhn. I think that when a new player comes to this game and they complete seasons, telling that player, because they're basically in full tech gear, it's like, all right, now go and grind 160 bill to get your pen black star, is kind of like the most insane thing. It's like wait, you want me to do what? I gotta grind how many hours I got? What? Telling someone that kind of sounds psychotic. Obviously, you'd probably put them on a smaller goal, but I feel like setting someone off to be like, hey, you know what? We've got these cool things, these infinite pots. You can work on those. You can make a little bit of money, learn more about your class. Because by the end of season, not everybody's like absolutely fresh on their their brand new class if they're a new player, or maybe someone that gets to play it like very limited amount of time. I think it's really important to have alternate goals other than just that money stuff or whatever, because when you tell someone, all right, it's 250 hours, go ahead and make that money, and then the next item is going to be 250 hours, and the next item is going to be 350 hours, and the next one's going to be 500 hours, you're just like, do I want to play this game? Is this a game I want to play?
Right.
So for me, the items are more of a distraction, and I like to think of the treasure items being like, oh, I could get this while also maybe getting a little money, while also, working on your Kafirs or working on your next thing. I think that it's a good distractor goal to like help you from not thinking about like, all right, I gotta grind 120 more hours here before I reach my goal. Oh god.
Players logging in.
Oh, my 1 million trash goal. Oh god.
Bro, he hit the nail. Look at Vice Optimus is like, oh, so no. Yeah, no, I completely agree with Blonde. I was preparing like this whole rebuttal argument, and Blonde just absolutely nail on the head. Literally, the entire reason that I kept playing the game and continue to play the game today very, very actively is because I'm going after treasure items. It's not because I'm pursuing the gear. Like yes, you're going to make silver while you grind for treasure items. Admittedly, I am making money at Ash Forest. You can't tell me I'm not making money. The silver value is going up in the marketplace. I'm making money. But like, you're making money as a player, and you're working toward a goal, but your focus is on something else entirely. It's this cool item, just like you just said. It's just a much different feeling, and it's a way better motivator. For at least for me. I know that's what kept me playing the game all these years. But like, also for a new player, man, because they're just like, man, I don't feel the incentive to go out and grind 110 billion silver for my pen ogre ring. I just don't want to do it, and I feel that because like I don't know if I would want to do that necessarily. If I looked up the hill and saw it was 110 bill, what I want to do is stare at my feet, and look at the compass, and then eventually I just stumble my way up the hill into an ogre ring, right? Like, so I don't know. I think it helps new players, but it's interesting. All right, so nobody has touched on Ebenruth's Null yet. Have any of you? Okay, I'll explain. What Ebenruth's Null is an item in the game for the boat content. It's ocean content in Black Desert. So this essentially gives your boat S instant excel, where so all of your boats in the game when you get skilled sailing get what I'm going to call we call it breezy sail, but it's essentially instant excel for your boat. And the Ebonruth Knoll is an extremely rare item, only obtainable on the ocean, that you can get that will add a second breezy sail at the end of your breezy sail. So you essentially have an essence and excel there. It's an extremely rare item, but it's used for boating. I'm not going to get too much into this because you guys probably have no idea. Jay Kuhn's probably the only, he knows of the item. You know what I mean? But like, I think it's the first treasure item we've seen that is just not really obtainable via grinding. If you exclude the merchant ring, which wasn't obtainable early on and is now obtainable via grinding, this is like boat content treasure item. Do you guys think that there should be more treasure items that are not necessarily grind like linked? Blonde, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I actually would love if there were all kinds of different types of items. I think that the merchant ring was kind of a push in one of those directions, but not necessarily fully. But I mean, more the merrier for treasure items. I was going to touch on this earlier when Tiltos was talking about like introducing cool new items that make like convenience even easier. When they gave the fairies an extra ability to just have an auto use of all your items, I was like, they could have made this a pay to win shop thing. They could have made this a thing that I had to grind 1,000 hours for to unlock on my fairy, and they just gave this shiz out for free. I was theorizing with friends. I'm like, bro, what if they made like a magic melting pot and we could pop a bunch of elixirs? That would be crazy. And then they gave this shiz out for free, and I'm like, bro, I could have freaking grinded that. Oh my god, it could have been a cool rare grind. But that's cool. I want more of that. I want them to do more of that. I think that's some of the funnest parts of this game is like having those weird items in some random area that you got to go grind, and it just makes you go to that area and do more of it. I think that's how a good way they recycle older areas. That's what they did with Dragon, and I think that's how they keep certain spots, keep those weirdos like me that want some weirdo random item. I think that's huge. That's my favorite parts about those things.
Bunch of weirdies, man.
Oh yeah.
All right, Tiltus, you got something to say on this? Do you feel like there should be more treasure items that are not necessarily grind linked? And I'll attack onto it. Do you think that there should just be more treasure items? And do you think that some of them should be not grind linked?
So I think, honestly, I think they should all be grind linked, but it depends on your definition of grind. I think they're 110%. There should be life skilling ones. I don't know why there's not already life skilling ones. But you should get them from life skilling, from various things of life skilling. I can already, off the top of my head, think of some cool ideas for life skilling ones.
What do you got? Hit me.
You should get a alchemy station or a cooking station that doesn't break.
Whoa.
Can you imagine?
I'm in.
Can you imagine like a
that's a good
treasure item where it's like you have to go out and you have to mine for this one specific mineral, and it's a Elton piece drop rate, and you just you go do your Pilgrim's Haven a couple times a week or whatever, and people are out there grinding for. There's all sorts of things like that you could do with them. And so I do think that they should be different. I do think they all need to be grind linked. You need to log the hours to get your item.
Even the life skilling one?
Yeah. But you should be grinding life skills, right?
Oh, okay.
Not
so then, okay, all right. I just want to make sure.
That's what I was saying. Like your definition of grinding, not necessarily killing mobs,
all right,
but
yeah,
you need to log the hours to get it. So, I think that would be interesting. I don't know why there's not life skilling ones already in the game. To be honest, that seems like low hanging fruit to me.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of the ideas here. Tiltus, that's a great idea. But Jay, do you feel like there should be more treasure items? And if not, like why? But like also, should they all be like PvE grind linked? You're the PvE lord, so I expect you to say yes. But
yeah, definitely. I would agree that there should be more treasure items in the future through different methods. Actually, you mentioned that there should be. You mentioned that actually in the new region. I don't know if you guys would define the ginseng as like a life skill treasure, but it is a very, very rare item that you have to gather for.
No,
so
it's not permanent.
No,
it's
not permanent.
No,
it's
you can't do me like that.
It's also not a like treasure.
Not a treasure, but definitely a rare item. And I think that sort of gives. What's the word for it? Like it starts building that foundation for different things in the future that they could do possibly. And this is like their introduction to it, right? I think when BDO does these small little things that, like for example, the Elvia zones, I feel like an early version of the Elvia zones was Abandoned Monastery, Paddock's Island, right? They were rehashing these old areas as harder versions of that same area. And I feel like this is what they're trying to do with the ginseng, is that they're introducing this new sort of method of getting this rare item, and maybe in the future that would build and lead into more opportunities to create new rare items in the future.
Man, I sure hope so.
As for like whether they should only be grindable, I mean, I like grinding, so I don't mind if it's a grindable item. But I do agree that new methods would be really, really cool to have, maybe based on
where you're gathering
about.
Speaking of the ginseng, pure black zones, ultra rare. Some people have never seen them before. I love that. I love these ultra rare, super unique, cool, just things. Doesn't even necessarily have to be something that lasts forever, but that's awesome. I love all that kinds of stuff. It would be cool to have more weird stuff like that in the game.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say I don't want there to be too many treasure items, because I feel like it starts to dilute the quality or the rareness. So there needs to be a limited number of them that feel like, oh man, this is a really cool thing to go for. I don't want to see them flood it. Also, a definition of a treasure item to me is unique to your player, unique to your family. So like the ginseng is sellable on the market, therefore it's not a treasure item to me.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a treasure item, but I agree actually with Tiltus there. I think that treasure items are great. I don't like, honestly, AP Blackstones are frustrating to me. I think they're really cool, but also really annoying. As a treasure item grinder, I like grinding in certain spots for like certain items. That way everyone can't just accidentally their way into the thing that I've been grinding for the last like 3,000 hours. Can we at least limit it to the people that are grinding at my grind location? Like, but like, I do think that there should be at least 1 or 2 more treasure items, but I also think that they shouldn't introduce it until after I've gotten my merchant ring.
Well, how do you feel? Then how do you feel about these events then, like the treasure events where they change alternate spots and stuff?
I actually like that because okay. So this is something I forgot to touch on earlier. So part of treasure items is that they have to drop at a very specific spot, right? So like you must grind at this spot, and typically those spots make less money than another place that you could comparably be grinding if you're trying to maximize your silver. For example, Histria. If you can grind at Histria, you're probably pretty close to being grinding at Orcs, and Orcs is gonna be like way more money. So like, or like the potion spots, you could be at Centaurs, right? So there's like a sacrifice that goes into that. The merchant ring is just pain and suffering, and everyone else is at Caltheon Elvia. So like, there's some sort of sacrifice that kind of goes into treasure items that I actually really enjoy in that regard, because I also like grinding in spots that just aren't super populated. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like if you add too many treasure items, it takes the nuance away from the treasure items. There's too many zones that drop treasure items, and people just accidentally their way into treasure items, which is kind of frustrating as someone that grinds for them regularly, because they're supposed to be rare. So shut up, they're supposed to be rare, and you know it. Like they're supposed to be rare. I think that there should. I think there absolutely should be a life skilling treasure item, and I actually like the idea of like the unlimited cooking and alchemy utensils. Do you guys have any like examples of treasure items? Doesn't have to be life skilling. Any treasure item in the game that you think would be like a really, really cool item that would qualify as a treasure item? Tiltus, do you have any other good ideas?
No, not that was like the very first thing that popped into my head. I'm sure if I sat here and dwelled on it for a while, but that's one of those things. Like, remember how I was talking about annoying? How annoying is it when you're cooking something and you're not actually playing the game, and you've run out of durability on your cook pot, and then you come back to the game like 30 minutes later, your character's just standing idle, and you're like, man, I didn't even notice. Like, that's really annoying, and that it makes it that much better. So that's what I was talking about when I was talking about it needs to be annoying, but like not game breaking.
I will say what the problem that I see with that is that then people can just AFK. You turn cooking and alchemy into AFK life skills. And those are, oh my god, if you're AFK cooking around the clock with 2K mastery, you just can't be stopped. It might be illegal in like 47 states, bro. Like it would be insane. Alchemy would be similar, but you'd run out of mats for alchemy. Cooking's the only thing you could realistically do it with. Blonde, do you actually? I mean, you grind for treasure items all the time, like I do. Do you have any good ideas for like upcoming treasure items? I know you wanted the fairy skill. You're right. That could have been a treasure item. Don't even suggest that it could have been a pearl shop item. Why would you do that?
I mean, some people would call it a pearl item because you had to roll the skill. Some people were really upset about that.
Nah, they gave away a bunch
some
of free
people just
rerolls,
first
though.
try it,
Right.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about it.
No, yeah. No, I'm not a very creative person. I couldn't even. People ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, man, like, what if they introduce a new treasure item? What would you like?" And I'm like thinking, "Okay, is this a dev in my chat pretending to be some noob?" Or and I'm thinking to myself, "Okay, I gotta come up with something real cool." And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I'm not a creative person at all. But I don't want to spoil anything for the new region, but those new life skills in the new region, they could 100% do like some, transformative like thing with those. That would be
Discord. No spoilers for new region.
I'm not going to
There's
say
new
anything
life
particular,
skills
but
in the new region. Hold up.
they could definitely do some crazy cool stuff. The mini games are different. The things are different. So
Okay. That's,
I don't want to
okay,
say
right.
specifically what it is, but could you imagine like if you had like a little like thing that goes in your book slot and it would just alter the life skill, you know what I mean, like to something else or to do something else, or I don't know, more materials, or you could specialize on material. I don't know particularly what, but that's the only thing that could come to mind about the new stuff. But I'm really not a creative person, so it's like impossible for me to come up with stuff.
Jay, what do you think? Any ideas for treasure items?
I have a couple things. The first thing that I have is maybe a rare item that changes the appearance of and color of your skills, and the method of acquiring it is based on your class. Maybe it's a class specific quest line or something that you have to quest for, like, you are this, I don't know, maybe based on your lore. Let's say you're the Nova, right? The Nova is like this weird clone, and you have to do something with, I don't know, etc., etc. It's a class specific quest. Another one that I had was a Magnus Hearthstone, so that you could just teleport to the Magnus whenever you wanted. And you would acquire it through the method of, maybe they reuse the puzzles, because there was a bunch of puzzles in the Magnus, and maybe they make like harder versions of it, and that's how you would acquire it. And then the last thing I thought of was a rare tent part that allowed you to hire a priest, and so you can get your church buffs at the tent. Was my last idea of a rare treasure. And maybe it's acquired through, I don't know, you have to pray. I don't know.
Yo, get out of here with that talk, bro.
When you mentioned the weapon, the ability changing thing, that reminded me of in World of Warcraft, they did challenge mode weapons for the Legion. The Legion artifacts, they did like the challenge tower, and basically you had to go and complete this insanely hard, really difficult, like I think I did it like 40, 50 times on one of my characters over and over and over again to try and do it to get just a weapon appearance. But that weapon appearance was a challenge mode specific, and it was very rare, and like you had to complete this insane challenge to get it. They had one like uniquely for every single individual class and spec. So like, I got it on like a bunch of different tanks. Like I had like 4 or 5 different tank characters that got it, and they all had, and it was the coolest looking one, obviously, because it was the super challenge mode thing. That would be incredibly epic if they had like some kind of class challenge.
Well, the thing is that exists already in the game. There's Arsha outfits that change the effects of your skills. Do you guys remember that?
Really?
What?
Yeah, I forget what they were for. They were very limited. I'm trying to remember what the exact thing was, but there was one handed out to
Bugatti. I'm just kidding.
No. I'm trying to remember the specifics of it. If somebody in chat
didn't some of the Halloween costumes change things too? Like if you have a Halloween costume, you can get like the bats on your skills.
Yeah,
that was sick.
There was something else. There was like a
one
time like Arsha event or something that happened, and whoever came out on top got like a special like outfit for their class that lasted for like 30 days or something like that changed all their skill coloring. I think it made it like black and red or something like that for all the classes. It was really neat.
That would be super sick. Unfortunately, I don't know if I could hear Perlibus turning on the shredder when we suggested that. So that when the facts came through, it just fell straight into it. Like I'm fairly certain that the coding, they're like, no, there's no shot we're gonna make you change the appearance of your skills. The biggest thing that I see is a problem with being able to change the appearance and color of your skills, is that we said that treasure items can't be required items for the player base, and that's absolutely going to be required. There's actually just no shot, bro. The end game is fashion, like that is 100% required. The Magnus Hearthstone is a super good. It's a super good one. Honestly, you just take Blue's compass grind and you make it as in value as like little value as possible. You just take that compass, you just make him throw it straight into that garbage can. You know what I'm saying?
4 years
totally
of your life
fine.
go by.
The church buffs at the tent, I don't think that they're gonna do that. Just because that there's classes in the game that they're like specific passive is that they can do that, and I think they only want those classes to be able to do that. But these are great. Those are great suggestions. Those are absolutely amazing. Now, one thing before we move off this, we didn't touch on the Orzeca. And since we're on the subject of outfits, do you guys feel like the Orzeca, I mean, it has a pity system, but I would consider this one a treasure item. Because the pity system is just a little bit tougher and the grind zones are a little bit tougher as well. But like, would you like more like Orzeca-ish outfits? Would you go grind for them if they were in the game?
That the newer can, I want a boss costume for everything. I want a Kudum skin that's got rings all around my body and it's got a little puzzle face looking thing. Like, I would love that. A Zarka thing that actually has real looking crazy like dread tentacles and like a maw of your mouth.
Cool. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, that'd be so crazy.
I do think they could. Isn't there a Nuver outfit?
Yeah, the Nuver
for 30 billion silver, it can be yours.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
I was actually going through the storyline this weekend, and there's a really, really cool mounted boss at the top of Kron Castle that you have to fight. I don't know if any of you guys have actually done that. But his drip was on point. It looked so
horse guy,
good.
right?
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, I want this outfit. It looks so like the horse armor, everything. I was like, give me this. I want this to be obtainable in game. So there's definitely a lot of things they could do, I think. I think more outfits for the player base that would be through grinds would be really cool.
Yeah, 100%.
I like outfits through grinding.
Everybody
Jay
does.
Jay, do you like outfits through grinding? You can be a part of the discussion. It's okay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Literally,
I was listening.
Jay,
Jay crickets, bro. Like
yes, 100%. I kind of I wish there was like an exclusive like winter region outfit. I feel like the winter region could use more.
Yeah.
I mean, like a
winter
there is for $70. It can be yours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I grinded for this. I just grinded at work. But yeah, no. I like outfits through the grind because I think that it's a great way to introduce things to the game that are purely cosmetic. Really just make you feel like a badass for having played the game for a super long time. I don't know, anything like that is really good, but don't give you an advantage necessarily over other players. You could argue that the map and the compass definitely give you advantages over the other players, and so do the infinite pots in some ways. But like, okay, buddy, all right, buddy, like all of us, the normal players. But at least the map and the compass for sure, because you can compass people just before war to like a cannon spot or whatever you need to do. There's a lot of different uses for them. But okay, we've touched enough on the treasure items. We're gonna move on to our next topic here, which is, and Jay, you wanted to you were the one that wanted to talk about this, so I'm gonna let you lead off the discussion a little bit. The Black Spirit Rage in BDO. Okay, so in its current spot, do you think Black Spirit, the like BSR Rage in PvE and in PvP is in a good spot? Okay, the 100%, the 200%, the partial Black Spirit Rages. Do you think it's all in a good spot? Do you like where it is? Do you not like where it is? Jay, I'm gonna let you take it first because this is your idea.
So I think the purpose of the BSR mechanic was to give players this really cool attack with this cool animation that they can execute every once in a while, and the current system does that. I think it's in an okay spot, but I would love for them to have some like TLC quality of life changes for it, just to make it more impactful and easier to use. I think when like for example, when you are using the BSR, some of them are like really long animations, and I know that when I'm grinding at Olin's Valley, sometimes I accidentally use it when I don't mean to, and so like I like a one quality of life change that I would just love to have for it is that I can use it on a separate keybind. Like I made to hotbar it so that I can use it when I want to.
You know, you can Alt B, right?
I know
Alt
you
B
can
and just
lock it and lock it with Alt B, but that's just such an awkward, position for my fingers. You know what I mean? It's very cumbersome to do every time.
As a shy, I only have 3
That's what
fingers.
you might just like
so-
quality of life.
Yeah.
Oh, just have an extra finger. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
it.
I just hold down RMB, he said, and I have no extra fingers, so he'll hold the alt. But Blonde, do you think that BSR is in a good spot? I noticed that like you do something cool in your grinds is you consume your BSR on your
time.
at least on your LVAD grind. You were just consuming it. So like for the listeners that don't know, right now in PvE, they changed it a little while back now that if you use your ultimate, you get the 1 minute attack speed, cast speed buff, and all that fun stuff that you used to only be able to get by consuming your BSR. So now there's very little reason not to use your ult. But I'm curious, Blonde, why don't you use your ult all the time in PvE? And do you think that BSR needs an update overall?
Particularly for the LVA grind that I was specifically doing, where I was killing elites, the animation was just too long. In normal, natural grinding, in almost every other spot, I'd probably naturally use it because I loved the addition where they're like, "Hey, your ability that consumes that BSR and definitely is not worth a 1 minute buff of all that stuff. Here's just that on top of the ability. So like, use it, please. It's cool." And I'm like, "Yes, this is cool." Particularly for the LVI, I was just doing like efficiency grinding where I'm running to the back, 2 swiping a mob, and then running to the next one. But in everything else, I love the like concept of that little bit of BSR. I don't like the partial BSRs for Awakening because, like Jakun said, there are some that like lock you in animations and they're a lot longer and they're not as strong, and it's just like kind of weird when I could do 3 other abilities that are not like that are way stronger than this. So I feel like that's kind of weird, but like in general, I do like the concept of like blasting through a bunch of mobs and then getting the buff and then just running wild.
Okay, yeah, right on. No, I completely agree with that. I think the partial BSR system needs an update. Tiltus, you are probably the most relevant person here because you play Valkyrie. Do you like BSR where it currently is? Do you use the partial BSR system on your Valkyrie? Do you like the 100% where it's at?
So this is going to be weird, and I'm probably going to get a lot of fucking hate for this, but I actually don't like the BSR system where it's at all. Because I feel like it is very, very... And this is from a PvP only standpoint. PvE, I think it's already been talked about. But from a PvP standpoint, I don't think it's in a healthy spot right now because it is Zerkers and Valks almost exclusively in main ball for BSR. I know there's some niche stuff that people like to do with other stuff, but what was it? Sunday night, I was literally just we were grouping and I was literally yelling at my guild to give me BSRs. Like every time we group, I'm like, feed me now. And then when I'm not at 100%, I'm screaming, why am I not at 100%? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so important for some classes, and then other classes, it's just like, they don't need it. That's why I get fed BSR. Like, so I don't think it's in a healthy spot. I liked partial BSRs when they came out because some of them were useful on certain classes. And it gave, this is back when the CC system was a little bit different. So it gave some skills protection and CC, or it would give some, like it would give them a combination of things that they didn't normally have. Whereas now they've kind of reverted a lot of those changes so that things do have protection and CC on them. But I'm not a fan of the current BSR system. I think it needs to be completely reworked to make it at least viable for most classes to use their BSR, and not just funnel it all onto 5 players every single war, and those are your BSR targets for PvP.
Yeah, I mean, like, I partially agree and I partially disagree. So I agree that the partial BSR system needs an update. I think that classes like Valkyrie use like BSR Terra Sancta is juiced. That skill is just so good. It's a 25% BSR on Valkyrie, and it just adds like 50% damage to your like most DPS or your highest DPS skill. It's just super good on a class that's already getting funneled for BSR, so you probably have an excess of BSR. But like the partial BSR system in general just doesn't add it doesn't give anything to Awakening because it just doesn't work super well, and it's really clunky to use, as Jake said. It's really clunky to use on basically every class in the game with the exception of like 1 or 2. It's really just not super great on most of those classes, and I think we could use a huge quality of life update, and I think that partial BSR system would just be like way better. Now I will say that I actually like if we're talking about, okay, step away from the partial BSR, look at the 100% real quick. I like where the 100% is at. I like being able to funnel certain classes because I think it adds to that class's experience during notables. For example, if you take the 100% BSR away from Zerker, you've basically taken all of the value away from Succession, Zerker, and War. So like, I think it gives them an identity in some cases. Valkyrie, maybe, like Valkyrie already does like fucking everything, so like they didn't really need an identity, but like you kind of take identity away from some of the classes in the game, and I like kind of being creative with the 200%, which we will talk about right now. But yeah, okay, so 200%. I think we all agree that the partial BSR system needs a total, like, we just need a quality of life update. We like it. You know what? Before we go into the 200%, do you guys feel like Succession should also have BSR, partial BSR?
Yeah.
Really? Why?
I just thought it would. This is gonna sound weird, but I just thought it would be like it makes sense for why do I have these available like upgrades to my skills in Awakening, but then I don't have them in Succession? It feels like almost like a cop out, almost where they were like, we didn't design these skills to have BSR, so they're not getting BSR ever.
But they did though, because Awakening has it, right? Like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, go ahead.
So I just think it was one of those things where like, I mean, I'm not going to say the partial BSRs are the most useful thing on the planet, but like Succession should have them just for the sake of like continuity across the game and the specs, in my opinion. So I think Succession needs them.
Okay, Jay, do you think that Succession needs BSR, like the partial BSR system?
I just love having options of different ways to play the game, and so I would really like. It would be nice to see them added. I mean, some classes just don't even have partial, like Shy. Shy doesn't even have any partial BSR in pre-awakening or in their talent tree, and so I mean, I feel like it would be really cool if, let's say, you could add 50% to one of your songs or something, and it was like a little bit stronger, right? As rather than like consuming it for a party buff or something, you know, just have different options to play your class. And so I think the 10%, 25%, 50% do give players that option to play your class a little bit differently if you choose to. So
you're Shy. Yeah, like I enjoy options playing the game. The option that I enjoy the most is holding right mouse button until I fall asleep in my chair.
I also, you know, bongo, I hold shift F as well, you know.
Yeah, okay.
Yo, bongo bongo is a BSR, let's be honest.
That's true. The trick to that skill is you have to hold shift and then press F while you're still holding shift. Mechanical genius. Blonde, do you think that Succession should have partial BSR?
So not being able to dismount anybody on pre-awakening or Succession rather is kind of annoying. So like for the sake of being able to do that, like if my 100% maybe did it, that'd be nice, but having to wait for 100 just to demount somebody that's just going to get back on it kind of sucks. So like in that sense, that would be nice. But like they're just not, if they were more well balanced or more creative, I feel like currently they're just kind of like very lackluster, and I don't really know anybody that's actively talked about or used them very often, because they were cool when they first came out because like, oh, look at me do this, and I went with my buster, and then I never used it again because I was like, I'm never gonna go that slow ever again. That's kind of stupid. So they had like really cool creative ways that actually were well done, like player feedback, maybe kind of type stuff. I think that'd be cool. But I don't think it would be good like to have like a ton of them like they do on Awakening on Succession because of balance reasons. But if they made them like neat and not like absolutely broken, then like, hey, it could be really cool. But I just we really are relying on them to make sure it works, and you know.
Yeah, I feel like we just got through saying that the partial BSR system is a literal fucking dumpster of a system, and you guys are like, but what if we lit the dumpster on fire and made it more interesting to look at?
Yeah.
Like, bro, we already have a bunch of BSRs that don't actually work, and y'all want to add more.
Well,
I
have some comments about that.
Well, I think that if they fix Awakening's partial BSR, and I'm gonna be real, I think that Succession has enough damage. I think it has enough creativity in the kit. I think I'm gonna set Dark Knight is a good example of this. I think Awakening Dark Knight, like Succession Dark Knight, has a ton of damage and protection packed onto a small amount of skills. If you add BSR options on top of that, you're talking about two-shotting. But we're already two-shotting people. We're talking about one-shotting somebody. Awakening is meant to be this more in-depth, like, and there's like more skills, and you can kind of like your protections are a little bit more spread out, but you have more options overall on the kit and stuff. And I think that like the way the developers lean is like partial BSR is supposed to be a part of the Awakening kit, just because Awakening needs to have that option. It needs to have that depth, versus Succession is just like, I just placed my nose on the D key, and then I rolled left, and then I rolled right, and then I rolled left again. Which is what most Succession classes end up being, to be honest. I think Awakening is supposed to have that depth, and I think that giving it to Succession is going to make Succession suck is already really strong. If we look at Sage, for example, if you just added a bunch of BSR Succession skills on Sage, there's no way it gets weaker.
Okay,
right?
I'm gonna backtrack my answer just simply because balance. Okay.
Yeah,
don't add it because you won't be able to balance it. So yeah, correct. Never mind. I take it back.
That's why I said they have to be very particular about it. They can't just add it and be like, all right, we'll go willy-nilly. You know, I feel like they really have to, if they're going to introduce it, they have to really put a lot of thought into it and not just kind of like, you know, ham-fist it. Like, that's the only case scenario where I agree with it. Now, whether or not they can ever do that, that's a different question, but...
Okay, again, I'm going to bring up a moment that I said in the other... You guys playtest? You guys playtest? There's not a chance, bro. Like, I think it would be really cool for them to update the partial BSR system, but I think we're running on Windows Vista here. You're kind of reaching if you think that shit's going to be balanced when it hits live. Like that's going to be a clown fiesta. And I actually kind of like the fact that it's a clown fiesta initially, because it helps make everyone dive into it, because you want to find out like what the OP thing is, right? Like, and then you learn a lot about the cousin, and then they balance it, right? Like then it's like shaking the snow globe up. It's like really interesting to look at. But okay, that's an interesting opinion. I like that. Now we're gonna take a look at the 200% BSR. Now let's get some backstory. 200% BSR was really not a thing until Succession came out, and the Berserker 200% was discovered. Fun fact, my friend, my old buddy, back in Dismantle, when it had just started, it was before Dismantle. This was before Dismantle. It was like when Succession came out, we were node warring in a guild called Intrinsic Quality, and my buddy was in the battle arena. He goes, Blue, the Succession Zerker 200% is actually out of this mind. It's like the second day after Succession came out. And I was like, really? And so we go and we look at this, and he killed, I'm not joking, we had a BSR, or we had a BA night that evening. He killed like 42 people with his BSR. They were all 2 Volatimis, but like it was wild. And there was no 30-minute cooldown when it came out. Okay, so like we went into like the next week or two of Node Wars. I guarantee we were the first ones doing this. We would walk up, it was a 25-man Node War, so we could barely get him to 200% on every push. We would walk up, and our strategy, everybody else in the guild was garbage. So we all just funneled our BSR onto this Zerker, and he just spun every single push. He was just 200%ing and just running people over on every single push. And then it got nerfed like 2 weeks later because the entire server started doing it. It was about a month and a half later because the entire server started doing it. But like, do you think that 200% BSRs on that note are actually in a much better spot now? Do you like where they are, or do you feel like something needs to be changed with these things? Let's go J-Kun first.
I think most people can agree that the animations of the 200% are really, really cool, but it does seem like for most classes, that's all they have to offer. As for the strengths of the 200%, I think the condition that you need another player's help to reach 200s, or specifically tailor your gear to reach 200 by yourself, in for that condition, I think they do feel too weak. excluding Zerker, of course, if the condition was made more easier to get to regularly use the 200%, like for example, let's say you only need to reach 150%, right? Then I think it would be more in line with their current power, especially since they also have a 30-minute cooldown now, so you can only use it every 30 minutes. In terms of PvE, I mean, like if the condition is that hard to get, like I've been doing this sort of ritual now with my Olin party that I force them to feed me 200% so that I can use it at the beginning of the Olin hours, just so I can experience it and have fun with it for the first time in my life.
Oh my god, bro! Wait, on your shy, you're using the 200%.
No, on my Wusa,
Oh, okay, I was like, bro, the shy
because it looks so cool. No,
the shy one's just like a bubble heal, bro. Like what you're griefing them, like.
I just wish the 200% is more regularized. Is that a word? Regularized in PvE?
It is now.
And
we know what you mean.
Yeah, and I wish they were like just like super strong, right? Like why not be able to, well, not like one shot an Olin, but at least chunk it more than your 100%, because my 100% does pretty much just as much damage as my 200%. It just looks a little bit cooler and is twice as long in animation, so I just get bonked during it. So
okay, so you really just want as the PvE lord in chat, just so we're clear, you want to be able to one-shot an Olin golem so that you don't actually have to go through the trouble of making a party. You can just kill the golem on your own.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I think
that's what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Just to be clear, though, you did say that 200% have you have to rely on other players, and in most cases that's true. But now in the game, if you have the full Tungrad set and the artifacts that goes with them, you can reach 200% BSR on your own. It is doable.
I just feel like it is a big sacrifice,
a lot, right? Yeah. It's a huge sacrifice. Not worth it, but you could technically do it if you wanted to. Blonde, do you think the 200% BSR is it a good spot, and why do you feel it's in a good spot as a Succession Berserker?
On one hand, I think that it's important that not everybody has a crazy BSR, because you need funnelers and you need the people that get funneled. So I feel like having like a few all-star classes where a lot of their identity, as you said, is tied up into these abilities is cool. On the other hand, you know, video games should be fun and everything should be fun, and I believe everybody should have a chance to have fun. And I would love it if they juiced the heck out of everybody's 100s and 200s, or maybe just during wartime they juiced them up. Because I think that everybody should have a moment where they're like, I'm going in! Oh my god!
Yeah.
You know, like everybody should get that opportunity, and I feel like not very many people don't. I mean, with the tag system you can, but like, you know, when it's an alt, it's not really your character, you know, that you identify with. I feel like everybody should get that moment, and we don't really get that moment, or unless you, like I said, you re-roll or tag or whatnot. And I feel like on one hand, like, yeah, I get that, you know, we have certain roles and certain people fill those roles. On the other hand, it would be really cool if everybody had like some epic pog moment in war or something like that. Also, the 30-minute cooldown is stupid. Get rid of it.
There were so many ideas thrown around so quickly. I don't even know where to start. It was the last one was just that was a unit of a guy. Honestly, as someone that has a lot of Succession Zerkers in his guild, I agree.
No.
Just go ahead and remove that altogether, and we will never use other classes in the game. We'll just bring 30 Zerkers to war. It'll be fine. So Tiltis, what do you feel like of 200%? Do they need changes?
200, yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with what you're saying about classes need identity, and maybe my earlier statement was a little too ham-fisted, as Blonde Bear said, where every class needs to have a good 100%. But I do feel like that if you're going to, because you need other players to get your 200% in 99.9% of situations, that it should feel impactful, and other classes have 200% besides Zerker. Let's be honest here. Like, how often do you see another class drop 200%?
That's
they
fair.
only want the best, baby.
But like, all right. So I think are you finished up there? I think
not every class needs to have a killer 200%, but it would be nice if they had some utility of some kind so that people could use them and feel cool about it. You know, it's not pointless to dump your 200% BSR onto a DK. You know, give them something.
I think the 200%. I think the developers just don't know what to do with 200%. I think they put it in the game and then they went one way with it, and then they gave one class, and then they don't know what to do. So I feel like they introduced 200% to the game as a strictly cinematic. This is for your montage opening intro. Like this is what this
trailer.
Skill.
It's just for the class trailer.
Yeah, this is what the skill is for. You literally need someone else to juice you up, and then you can like use it one time, but it's not actually going to be practical for anything. And that. Honestly, that kind of blankets most of the classes in the game, with the exception of Succession Berserker. But then they went to Succession Berserker and they actually gave it a good 200%, which I think they did that because, again, they wanted to give the class identity. If you take like the BSR away from Succession Berserker, it suddenly goes from being one of the best classes or the best class in large scale PvP to the worst class, one of the worst classes in large scale. I mean, it would be basically useless, right? Like he just doesn't have the AoE or the impact to do anything. So I feel like,
and that's why I specified too. Not every class needs to have it, but it should feel like cool to use it. Like I've used DK 200%.
Oh, they feel cool to. Oh no, yeah, that's a bad one. Yeah, that one's rough.
Yeah,
that one's dog shit.
I will also say this too, and somebody feel free to correct me if you know more than me, but I'm reaching way back in my memory banks CC changes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but 100%'s got changed with CC changes back in 2017. Because I distinctly remember DK's Awakened BSR having a vacuum on it that was no longer there after
Shattering Darkness?
No. Spirit Legacy. The orb.
Spirit Legacy is the 100%.
Yeah, I know, but that they changed BSRs during that patch in 2017 when they changed all the CCs and protections and super armor and all that.
Well, Spirit Legacy has always been the 100, and it didn't have a vacuum on it.
It did back in the day. It had a vacuum on it. If you were in the orb, you were stuck in the orb. You could not escape during the 100%.
Well, I mean, I agree in the fact that they're dead. If they're in the orb, so yes, you're right. They're not escaping the orb. The vacuum set aside. I think
what I was trying to say was I think the 100%'s had more identity before the CC changes, but I'm not. This is a long time ago, so I'm really reaching back in the memory banks here. But and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that too. But I seem to remember the 100%'s getting changed when the 2017 CC changes happened. I think it was 2017, maybe it was 18.
I don't think the 100s got to. They didn't get changed too much. But I think we're talking about 200s here. And like, I just want to throw out that I strongly disagree with the idea that everyone should get their moment where they just come in and one-shot a bunch of people. Like, I'm going in. If you give that to a Musa, I feel like Musa gets that moment every single engage regardless. Like, the dude just goes in. If you give him a good 200% on top of it, everyone just deletes themselves. What about Awakening Draconia? They fly in from off screen. Awakening Nova, they fly in from off screen. So like, I feel like most, if not all of the classes in the game, the 200% should just be strictly, or even Sage. Sage has one of the coolest looking 200%. He's like got the swag walk, the bubbles like pulsing and stuff, and he like walks inside of it and like drops the microphone. It's like really cool. But it's completely useless if you try to use it in PvP. Does a lot of damage, but you're just going to die in it, which is what most classes have. And I think that's the way that it's supposed to be. I think that's what the developers want, because they want BSR to give identity to some classes, but like they don't give it to all the classes, just because if they did, the other classes would just way outshine, like Zerker, for example, or Valkyrie, even. Like if you gave Witch and Wizard 100% that was actually just as good as the Valkyrie, why would you ever play Valkyrie? So like, I don't know. I don't agree. I think that BSR is actually in a solid spot. I like the 30-minute cooldown, because as someone that literally forced them to do that, yeah, it was pretty stupid. Like funneling your Zerkers on because if you decrease that cooldown at all, everyone can just play Zerker. It's basically, if you bring it down to like 15 minutes, if you have enough Zerkers, everyone just has a 200%. Yeah, every single pusher is just 200%. 30 minutes is kind of the sweet spot where like you'd have to sacrifice a lot of your offense ball if you wanted to try to have a Zerker with a 200% on every single push. So like, yeah, I think the 200% are in a pretty solid spot, and I think they're really just there just to look cool, but like, maybe 100%, but I think the partial BSR system is really what they should focus on. I think 100% are in a solid spot, especially with the PvE change that kind of added it to the Z buff. But yeah, let's see. All right, so We talked about Succession. So pivoting. Okay, we're off BSR now. Let's pivot over to any closing thoughts on BSR there, boys? Okay, I'm taking that as a note.
So
okay, go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say, why not just have the 30-minute cooldown on just a node wars and sieges, and just because before when they added the artifact system, I was actually like contemplating. I was like really seriously considering at one point tailoring my gear to self-collect 200%. Now, when the artifact system was introduced, so that I can regularly just use them in PvE for fun, even if they aren't good. But this cooldown pretty much removes the possibility of me ever doing that anymore. So maybe, you know, just as an alternative solution, it could just only be applied in sieges and node wars, you know, if that's the big reason, right?
Yeah,
that's the reason why it was added in the first place, was because it was too powerful in sieges and node wars. But why not have it powerful outside of that, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we go back to your earlier point of like whenever the developers introduce something, the entire player base universally asks, "Can we exploit it and how?" And I think that Show Nation and Digital, if you took the 30-minute cooldown off of open world PvP 200% BSRs, Cho and Digi are just running into each other with 200% Zerkers. They might just keep one in their ball that just 200% their ball to kill the Zerkers jumping in, trying to 200% their ball. It would be wild. So the problem is open world PvP. I think people would just abuse it too much. If you could figure out a way to get the 200% useful in like PvE only, it's doable. But in like open world PvP, where Cho and Digi, for example, are fighting each other like 100 versus 100 man GVG, sometimes more, they're basically just going to funnel the Zerkers every single time, every single push. Like everyone's just going to be wearing a DP meme set except for the Zerkers, and they're all just going to be funnel bots for the Zerkers.
But I don't think that's an issue. If that's how they want to play, and if that's fun for them, isn't that? I feel like it doesn't really matter too much, because it's just open world. Like when I think of open world PvP, I just think of people just having around, just having fun.
Okay, but it's fun for the people doing the spinning, but it's not fun for the 180 people that are not spinning. It's no longer fun. You've sucked the fun out of all of the open world PvP. No one else is going to happen. I mean, you're not wrong. Like, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that it would get exploited too quickly. And I think you're right. It would be really cool to have it like as an option in PvE to kind of optimize your PvE grind, or even if you're
that's more where I'm leading towards, is so that I can one-shot Olin's Valley. So
yeah, so that you can literally one-man Olin's. Don't have to worry about getting an Olin's party if you one-shot the golem. That's right. Okay, what do you guys think about Jay's suggestion there?
Yeah, I love it. I want more of it.
He's like, as the berserker in the chat, absolutely. Take the 30-minute cooldown off the skill. I'm in.
Yeah, it should only be active during wartime. I think that's the only time where it's like, okay, we're not gonna be here for a GVG for like an hour or 2 or 3 or something and whatnot. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you can get the people, if you can organize enough people to funnel that stuff to you, then you should be rewarded with getting it. You know?
Yeah.
But again, outside of war, I think in war, I completely understand it making or breaking everything, especially if it was unreleased, like unleashed. I mean, I feel like that's just really not fair, you know, because it is what it is. But I think outside of it, it should be completely unchained. And it should definitely be buffed to PV. Jay Kun juiced me the other day, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I did like normal spin damage."
Yeah, I asked him, did he have fun? And then he did have fun. So
I was like, "It looked cool."
It looked cool, but
you said it looked really cool, but you sacrificed like 3 100% and like a bunch of C-buffs to do it.
Oh yeah.
So Tiltus, you agree? You think that we should just screw it, take the cooldown off outside of No Wars and Siege?
Yes and no. Yes for PvE, no for open world GVGs, because I've started keeping track of the DigiCho shenanigans that are going on currently, and you're right. You would absolutely break those super large scale GVGs if you unleashed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be so fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Watch all those people blow up 200.
Yeah.
You got like Succession berserker. He's the guy having fun.
That'd be awesome.
He's the one. Like,
But yes and no. I think it should be useful for PvE. It is not currently useful for PvE at all. And I don't know how you would fix it, to be completely honest. But yeah, something needs to be done to it, I think.
Yeah, maybe you just put it like in Node War and Siege, it's on a 30-minute cooldown, and then in open world, maybe you just make it 15.
Yeah.
Because you said, it's fun, but you wouldn't want to necessarily use it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's a fair compromise.
Yeah, they can do something with it.
Yeah.
They get paid to do it. All right, let them figure it out.
That's fair.
It's their job.
You know, it makes me wonder if like the reason why they didn't like really push for any other 200% is because of the large amount of feedback as soon as they came out with Zerkers, and they're just like, all right, zip. We're not gonna fix anybody else's. We're just gonna leave it as it is.
Yeah, they're like, whoops.
We could have had some crazy. We could have had like a warrior pumping out his 200 out of his awakening weapon, just slapping down some giant slash, doing some crazy like the Zerker animation from Lost Ark. That would have been sick.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, guys, off the BSR subject and we'll do Global Labs first. Did you guys see these buffs on the Global Labs, bro? I was at the offline Oasis event and it was all the buzz, bro. Leifana came running in like with his shirt off. He was like, "They're buffing Corsair!" Like it was wild. It was wild. But yeah, they have these big buffs on the Global Lab for at least PvE for Succession staff, both Wizard and Witch, Corsair. Succession mainly, Valkyrie, and Awakening Striker. Like, do you feel like these all of these? I feel like one of these things is not like the others. Do you feel like all of these classes needed PvE, like really big, substantial buffs, in both PvE and somewhat in PvP, but not really? But mainly PvE buffs.
I think for sure the Wizard and Witch Succession definitely needed PvE buffs because just Awakening is just objectively better for how little effort you need to put in to make the same amount as Succession, where you needed to put like 200% of your effort in. So
yeah, no, it's like.
But that's all I have to say because I don't know any of the other classes.
Yeah, I mean, suck Corsair. I mean, you could just look at the classes right now, right? Like, what's the state of PvE on Succession on Corsair in general? Just terrible, right? So like, I agree with buffing.
I haven't heard
Corsair,
anything, so
right? Yeah, so probably terrible. The staff, Succession staff, absolutely needed. I completely agree. Succession staff definitely needed a buff in PvE. I know there's definitely some of the aspects of these buffs are definitely PvP. Like they're changing of how the skills kind of flow into each other for some of the stuff. But like the damage mainly is kind of just a PvE shift on most of them. I think that Warrior was already in a pretty good spot for PvE, but Awakening Striker was like really good at PvE already, and we just buffed it for no reason. And they also got a Striker is one of the ones that got like a more of a PvP/PvE buff. I
just want it to be clear, I'm having flashbacks talking about these Striker buffs.
Is Divios talking to the developers? Is that what the problem is? Like, I'm
scared.
It's actually insane. I feel like there was like Kuno is like crying.
Right?
Like, oh my gosh,
like,
bro.
What?
So Frosty's like, yes, amen, yes, please God. But like, yeah, like there's so many classes that I feel like needed help, but Awakening Striker, really? That's kind of like this. That's kind of like what we needed. That's what we want.
Right?
That's what we went with. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to touch on that. Now so now the normal patch notes. I saw that one of the GMs pinged us in the Black Desert official channel today, and we're going to get buffs to Calpheon Elvia, which fuck that, but fuck that. Nobody cares about that. We're gonna get buffs to Murrowak's Labyrinth. Okay. What does that grind spot need to actually be relevant? Because I'm gonna be real with you. These buffs better be fat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do we feel like that grind spot actually needs in order to be relevant? For the listeners at home, let me explain Murrowak's Labyrinth for a moment. It's a grind spot. It's a very unique grind spot in the game in Mountain of Eternal Winter, where you go in and you go into kind of an instance by yourself. And 6 people can kind of enter the grind spot on any server at any given time, and you're all grinding in these separate little rooms. And you're grinding these bugs, and you're waiting for the big boss to spawn. And you're all kind of all grinding on your own and making money and doing your thing. And then the boss spawns, and you're all teleported to the same boss room, and then you all fight the same big boss together. And then you get loot at the end, and then you kind of just do it again. Now, do you guys feel like, before we talk about buffs, do you guys feel like that do you guys like Murrowak's Labyrinth as a concept? don't talk to me about rewards. If it was excellent rewards, do you feel like this is a great concept for a grind spot? Blind, go first.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think not each and every grind spot needs to be the same. Having everything be a little different is cool, and I think it's cool. I think it's really unique, and I like it. But I like grinding, so.
We 3 of the 4 of us love grinding. Love grinding.
All of you sickos, weirdos.
Tiltus, do you like the idea of Murrowak's Labyrinth as someone that like you're the non-PvP? You know what? We'll save you for last. We'll save you for that because you've got a unique perspective. Well, like just because you don't PvE doesn't mean you don't have a good perspective. Shay, do you like Murrowak's Labyrinth as a concept?
Yeah, I do like it's very unique, right? How we have like these different rooms, and the more people you have, the more chances you have to trigger the boss. And so
you want it to be full.
Yeah, you want it to be full. Like I actually grinded Murrowak's Labyrinth, not like recently, but maybe like a month or 2 ago that I can't remember, just for like fun, just to grind out with friends because they just wanted to go to Murrowak's Labyrinth for the first time. That was the first time experience, and they thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the hour, when they saw their inventory with like, oh, I made like 400 mil, and then they felt different afterwards.
Like it's like the black
they had
guy
fun.
in the
They
meme.
said they had fun.
He's
so.
smiling, and then he's like,
You guys sure you want to do this? All right, okay, we'll do it.
Exactly, dude.
We were in Arsha too. We went to Arsha too for extra drop rate. It didn't matter.
Okay. Tiltus, do you like Murrowak's Labyrinth as a concept? I know you don't like PvE very much, but like, is it one of the spots that's attractive to you as a non-PvE player typically?
Yes, actually, yes. And the reason being is anything that keeps me from running around in circles and breaks the monotony is cool. I enjoy that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, like summoning a boss randomly, that's actually one of the reasons why I like Serendia Elvia spots as well, is because you get these like events, these boss summons and stuff like that, that, you know, break the monotony for a little bit. So yeah, it's a really cool concept. And anything that brings people together to kind of play together or, you know, go for a common objective is kind of neat too. Because you know, if you're random, you know, if you hop in randomly and you're thrown in with 6 other people that are also random, like it allows you to interact with people that you may not have normally interacted with. So I hope the buffs are fat, to be honest. I'm interested in that spot.
Okay, so all right, so now I'm gonna come in from the outside perspective of I love Murrowak's Labyrinth too, and you know why I love it? It's for the same reason everybody else hates it. I love it because there's an awakening witch. You can't grief me anymore. I get to sit in my room, and you can only grief me when we get to the boss. I remember I was in when that spot came out. I was in Vertex, and BR was just running me down, man. BR was just absolutely every single time I grinded, they were just running me down. So then I went to Murrowak's Labyrinth, and we were having a great time. And then they figured out I was doing Murrowak's Labyrinth, and they were like, "Well, he just doesn't get the boss then." So we would all spot it, and there'd be like 4 black rows standing there, and I'm like the white bitch on the couch, like, "Oh God, like please let me have the loot." But like, I think that Murrowak's Labyrinth is a great concept. I think a lot of the reason that the player base does not kind of catch on, or why it's shunned in the player base, is because it puts you in this instanced PvE, which is something like new at the time, but like we're gonna see it in Land of the Morning Light more. And people, again, you heard people arguing, like they're upset that the Land of the Morning Light PvE is pretty much all like instance. You can't PvP, like you can't do your open world thing in there. And so I think one of the biggest drawbacks for most players is that Murrowak's Labyrinth just doesn't really allow you to do a whole lot of PvP. But as someone that doesn't want to get interrupted at his grind spot, I absolutely love this location. I'm a big fan. Now I think part of the reason they don't really want to buff it is to help cater to those people. Right, to those people that just like they want their open world PvP. The developers want there to be a sacrifice for being able to grind for infinite hours without having to worry about people coming into your grind spot, without having to worry about a competition for resources. They want there to be a punishment, and in this case, that punishment is you're going to make no silver. What do you think is an acceptable amount of silver, given that like this is kind of what the developers probably want to like get? I can't assume what the developers want to do, but I have a pretty firm grasp on it. Like I feel like they're nervous to make it too strong because see, then everyone just wants to grind there and no one gets it. Like they inadvertently kill open world PvP in that expansion. So like, what do you think is like an acceptable amount of rewards for that grind spot? Tiltus.
Treasure item.
Why would you do that to me, bro? I honestly,
I think that by itself would actually make players go there, and they would go there with a purpose. So that would be interesting.
That's actually
it's an
true.
interesting concept, right? Like the problem with making it not worth your time is that if you want to summon the boss, you got to have players with you. So like you're telling me that like you go there uninterrupted, but then you also need 5 other players to, you know, increase your chances of getting the boss to spawn. Well, then like you really, you know, it's not entirely solo either. You're not uninterrupted the whole time because you want the other players there to help you. So or grief you, and you know, in Blue's case.
Yeah, no kidding. Jay, what do you feel like the spot needs? Well, honestly, Tiltus, that's a great suggestion. Like the more I think about it, I think that treasure item that's kind of gaming. Like I also like it because it's like kind of outside the box. Normally they're just, their solution is number bigger good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they just increase the silver per hour, right? But Jay, what do you think about it? Do you think it just needs better rewards? Or?
I think if you're not going to make an item, an area that doesn't provide a lot of silver, I think Ash Forest is a really good example of an area that doesn't provide a lot of silver, but the reason to go there is for the Debo necklace or for the rich merchant's ring. And so what Tiltus was saying is that, you know, maybe there's a treasure item, or doesn't have to be a treasure item, but maybe some sort of exclusive thing that you can only get from Murrowak's Labyrinth. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it's like a unique crystal. Maybe it's like this unique artifact that you can only get from there, but just something else unique, if not more silver, you know?
Yeah, number up equal good is not true in this case. We have enough number up places that you can go and make money at.
I agree. I think that adding silver, if all they do is add silver to it, I think it's just still dead. Unless they somehow, unless the amount of silver that they're adding is in the billions per hour. It's not gonna help, bro. Blonde, what do you think? What does the spot need?
I completely agree with both of them. Just the only other thing I would say is resources that we're out of stock on the market with. Like, so for examples, if the trash suit was only going to give you like 100 mil, but you could make like 100 Kaffers an hour there, like I think that giving certain resources to like then to the market, then to taxes, then to redistribute, or just if you wanted it yourself, right? Like I would like to grind, like I'm sure people would like to grind a high Kaffer spot, low money spot, because they would keep the Kaffers themselves while they're working on their gear. But at the same time, once Kaffers eventually are not being pre-ordered and stuff, I feel like once we have the full Fallen God set, those kind of spots are going to fall out of favor. So I don't know about it long term being like that, but short term treasure items great, and just obviously Kaffers in my opinion is a huge one, an obvious one.
Yeah, I think
there's really nothing else other than raw silver, like you said.
Yeah, I think that the treasure item, like I said, is an amazing idea. It's brilliant. I think that's really good. I don't think it's gonna be a treasure item, but we'll see. I think Jay-Kun's idea is flawed. I think that adding out like a high-end late game item, like let's say they added the Debo earring out of like left field, drops from Murrowak's Labyrinth. Well, all of the people that want the Debo earring are also the people that are going to complain that they can't PvP while they're grinding. Most of them, like those are all the same people. Like those people want, those are the people that want the PvP while they're grinding for their really late game item, because they're already basically finished with their gear outside of that. So I think adding a late game item maybe not as viable as adding a treasure item, which might help a ton. Adding resources that aren't on the market is a very interesting idea. I'm gonna float this out there for you. This is okay. You know what? Bonus points. Can any of you tell me where a literal elixir drops from this grind location in the game? Workers elixir specifically. Because there's no other grind zones in the game that I'm aware of that actually just drop a flat like created elixir.
Is it like the I don't know which grind spot, but are you talking about the AP enhancers and the enhancers? Those ones?
Okay. Well, those are also good, but I'm talking about actual elixirs. In this case, it's
Dragon Spot.
No, it's Helms. Helms actually drops workers elixirs. So like, I think that they could revisit this, and adding to Blonde Bear's point, they could add like very critical materials that drop for elixirs. For example, in Crocs on the ocean, I know none of you do ocean content, but like, you know that elixir of deep sea that you all love to pop so much, can only be obtained by getting pure coral crystal and fruit of the deep sea. But like the pure coral crystal is like the really big thing. That's like the super rare item, and you can only really get it through hundreds of hours of like you could underwater gather for 100 hours and get maybe 3 pure coral crystals. Or you could go to Crocs and you get like 2 an hour. 2 or 3 an hour. So like add okay, yeah, but even still though, like all right, okay, but it was just an example, okay? It's just an example. My point is you could add like a critical component to an elixir. Like for example, you could add a dead tree essence or something.
Truffle mushrooms. Oh.
Like or truffle truffle mushrooms. But you could add elixirs like as like a really rare item. I'm not saying you make it like giga like a giga common like a copper stone or a black stone or anything, but like just a few, like maybe it just drops an elixir of deep sea every so often, or something like that. Would help improve the silver per hour and also might make it attractive to more players. And I think that like, what do you guys think about dropping like elixirs, like flat elixirs, or even parts to elixirs? Jay?
Probably just parts to the elixir, not the elixir itself. That'd be kind of weird. Elms is weird.
It's kind of weird. They only did it once. Yeah.
So just parts of elixirs. I don't know what elixir would be. Maybe the what's the sap that's needed for the destruction elixirs? Because that's where
Snowfield cedar
comes from, right? Snowfield cedar. Maybe you could drop that. I don't know.
Okay.
Instead of people having to sap it,
Yeah. Blonde, what do you think about adding like elixir components? So, I mean, I already know you agree with it. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm all for rehashing old spots. Like, I don't know, if they ever did like an Elvia Medaya and they just were like, all right, let's take all these things that are massively sold out, even if it comes down to like, I don't know, like fetching deer meat or something, like just or like, how they've turned all the random green items we get through questing and doing old world stuff, like they gave us a little rarity box where it's like, all right, open it up and see what you get, like if they did something like that for like just like random meats or materials or random elixir materials or like a little grab bag, you know what I mean? Like you don't know what you're gonna get, but you get something. Like I think that'd be cool.
Can I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
There's this one elixir, I can't remember what it's called, but it did like reflect damage. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Thorns.
Oh, you can't get those anymore. Maybe you could get them.
Good reason.
I have a few hundred of those.
No, for good reason. I've never experienced
broken, bro.
it.
Well, actually,
really?
You can get Elixir of Thorn in the game. For those of you that don't know, Elixir of Thorn is something where if you pop it and people hit you, they take damage. It's kind of like a Thorn Mail of League of Legends. They take damage. And it was so busted on release of the game that they actually had to remove the recipe from the game. It doesn't actually work anymore. But you still can get it. You still can get it. It is there is a quest in Valencia that will allow you to obtain like 2 or 3 thorn elixirs a week, and they get sold on the marketplace. But like if they just drop components to elixirs, I actually agree. I think dropping the whole elixir kind of kills alchemy. Mermaid on tap in my chat is like, please don't kill alchemy. You're killing. What are you doing right now?
True, don't kill alchemy.
That's fair. That's a fair argument. But if you just drop the components to the really rare ones every so often, like in this case like the pure coral crystal, every so often, and you just add 3 or 4 of it to your hour, okay, you just added like 40 or like you just add like 80 mil an hour to your grind, right? So because like the deep sea elixir is worth like 10 or 20 million a piece, so like it would still force you to craft the elixir, so it still forces you to do the alchemy. Or you could just, if you don't want to do the alchemy, you could just sell the pure coral crystal for just the raw silver immediately. So like I don't know. I think that's a good option, and it's also not just like a raw injection of silver, which I don't like. I don't like it when they introduce things to the game that are just raw silver injections to the marketplace without a trade, like an exchange of goods. Right? We saw this when like sea monster hunting was like a really big thing, like 5 years ago or 4 years ago. We saw that like people were just injecting massive amounts of silver into the marketplace, and there was no exchange of goods, because before you had to grind. You would grind all day. You would get like 3 crescent rings. You would sell those crescent rings. You'd make 150 million silver. Okay, there's an exchange of goods going on there. But on the ocean, and it's still like this on the ocean, bartering was very difficult for them to balance. They struggled with it for a long time, because like on the ocean, you're not exchanging goods with people necessarily. It's just a raw injection of silver. You're trading small amounts of land materials for large amounts of silver profit, and there's no exchange on the market. So like bartering kind of just increases the inflation. So I don't really like just adding silver per hour to the spot or increasing how much the trash loot is worth. I like there to be an exchange of goods on the marketplace, and I like that. Again, I think we should encourage alchemy more among people. Now, we're starting to run over time a little bit, and Blonde, I know you need to go. So, do you guys have closing thoughts on anything we talked about today?
I love the whole
Tiltus
conversation.
Let's go. Tiltus first. Blonde, we'll end with you.
Who first?
You first.
Oh, yeah. Give me some really cool treasure items that don't absolutely break the game. Make me actually grind, please.
Let me one-shot Olin's Valley with my 200%.
Oh my god, bro. Jacob, you can wish for anything in the world. What do you want to do? I'm gonna one-shot a golem. Like, okay, like, I mean,
I can only do it once every 30 minutes, so I feel like it wouldn't be broken, to be honest.
Okay. Blonde, what are your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love the conversation. I really appreciate you guys for having me here. Especially for the legendary item, rare stuff, grinding, all that. I love it all. So thank you so much. It was an awesome conversation about all kinds of good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we absolutely loved having you. Again, that is twitch.tv/blondebear. I don't know how you might not know who Blondebear is at this point, but twitch.tv/blondebear. He's always grinding for treasure items and doing something cool. Super wholesome guy, except when you do get that merchant ring piece from Olin's and he is in your party, in which case he turns into Golem.
Turn it to Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah. Bilbo Baggins, bro. Oh, gosh. I absolutely love it. Tiltus, you want to do your outro real quick?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Tiltus TV. You can find me on fucking twitch.tv. I stream every day of the week except Monday. I do lots of Node Wars. I'm a shot caller. Please come watch me yell at all my friends. It's a lot of fun, I promise. And then I'm also doing a playthrough of BDO's story where I'm reading out all the dialogue. So if you're wondering what in the heck is going on in BDO's storyline, come join me on Saturdays.
I was holding R just listening to you talk about that, bro. Like,
dude, Balnos was good. Balnos was actually enjoyable. The beginning sucked, but like the back half was really good. I really enjoyed it, actually. I got sucked in a little bit. I wish Serendia was voice acted so badly.
Okay.
More, baby.
Right on. And J-Kun, you want to give me your outro real quick?
Yeah, my name is J-Kun, first of his name, keeper of the trash pandas, protector of the 7 trash cans, and you can find me on twitch.tv/JKunVT, not TV, but VT.
For VTuber, baby.
He's like, you are all stupid. Stop typing TV. Oh, God, I have to change my name again.
That's it. That's all.
Right on. Well, thank you all for being a part of the Old Moon Podcast, episode 6. That is going to be a wrap for us this time. Remember that we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you want to listen to us in the car on the way to work or whatever, it is always up in the morning or even just in a few hours from now after the stream goes down. Join us on YouTube. I know J-Kun posts it on YouTube. I post mine on my YouTube channel as well. And I think Tiltus is not quite there yet. He's still learning how to.
I probably won't post mine on YouTube. That can be for you guys. I'm good.
Okay. All right,
my idea for YouTube is not like VOD oriented stuff. I've got some ideas for YouTube, so I probably won't ever post it on YouTube, to be completely honest. There's other stuff I want to do with that. So
right on. Yep, that is the shot caller for Epidemic, the man, the myth, the legend himself. And I am Blue Squadron. As I said before, I'm the shot caller for Reforged and in guild leadership with them. And also, we're here for Fun Day Monday every week. We shot call Siege. We do all kinds of IRL cooking streams. Of course, we do the Old Moon. We host the Old Moon podcast and all kinds of things. So you can always tune in here and have a great time. So, boys, I think that's going to be a wrap.